everybody, and welcome back to our next new episode of the Byzantian Brewscast with your hosts, Chaotic Jigsaw and Byzantia Dev. It's time to enter the homebrew zone. We're still working on like a cool intro sentence or whatever. Welcome everybody. How are we doing this week?
Welcome back. I've been fairly busy. Been trying to get in touch with publishers. A couple of them actually have had it now.
Ooh.
Days ago, so probably filtering through everyone else's emails and the rest. But I'm making headway on that finally. Had a bit of a had a day out on the 7th with someone. Checked out the Sea Love Centre, which was nice. Haven't been there in 15 years. That was nice. Still good, you know. It's 27 quid's worth, but most of it's still there from what I remember.
Yeah, I think my sister's been a few times. Despite having lived here for like 6 odd years at this point, I've never actually been into the Birmingham Sea Life Centre.
That's really nice, yeah. And I've been working on only a couple of projects at a time, and I've been been more focused lately with it. So we've got one serious project, which has been the Byzantian one shot. We want to make the official one shot the test characters on, which is now finally done. These first draft, and one when I just want to write something for fun, just the concept. I'm just getting more done now because I'm not writing 20 things at once, and it's just been nicer.
I need to start like finishing projects rather than starting new ones.
So I'm feeling it out. It's all right. It's getting there now. Oh, and yesterday I finally got around to painting something.
Nice.
Finally have my all of the Jinsealer Cult's army painted. I've been sort of sitting on that for far too long as well. So finally got around to doing that.
That's good.
Painted. Yeah, busy times. And I saw the far too long as well. Dogs this weekend because my dogs were doing a fundraiser down in the NEC.
Hey.
It was nice. One of them was called Ringo, and now he's going for the guide dog training. It's nice.
My name's Ringo, and I'm a guide dog.
Woof. I'll show you around.
I am showing you around with peace and love.
To be fair, he's a retriever. He does everything with peace and love. They're just big goofy boys.
Oh, bless him.
It's been a good weekend, really. What have you been up to?
I not a whole lot this week. I mean, we did go out to NQ64. That was kind of like the main highlight of the week.
I forget, yeah.
We went out, had a few drinks. I played some Mario Kart. What was it? The Arcade GP2. I actually completed a cup this time. I actually went ahead and put some extra coins in and actually completed the basic cup. And it was like, yeah. Only on 50cc, but it's like, because the arcade Mario Kart uses completely unique tracks. Every single track is unique to the arcade version. And I don't think it's even like Mario Kart 8 or whatever. It's interesting seeing different tracks. I was like, yes, give me some of that. And I played a bit of Guitar Hero. And like, I want to get not necessarily good, but competent at Guitar Hero now.
Yeah, there's a decent another impromptu tournament in Bloody Raw 3. That was always fun.
It's a shame that the Xbox.
I think I like the game ironically at this point. It's a weird fighter because it's for those that don't know. We only know this game because I saw it looping the intro video. And I won't lie to you, it totally looks like furry bait. If you actually get to playing it, it plays quite well. It's really funny. It's sort of a little bit like Tekken in that you move away from the attack and you block automatically, kind of deal. But so it's only got like 3 attack buttons. It's all directional inputs from there.
Hmm.
So obviously you've got punch. So square is all the punch attacks. X is all your kick attacks, and there was triangle is grab,
Wow.
which I found really weird to actually get in range for. But because you don't have the controls, so we're literally figuring out as we go.
Hmm.
So I had like an hour and a half, 2 hours of that. Hotel is still great down there, though. What was on the Rebevnik? Very
Yeah.
good. Yeah, not cheap, but very good. And the I think it's the Uka Uka. It's quite good.
Hmm. Isn't that
Yeah,
alcohol-free
they're all
one?
like the basically it's a video game themed cocktails. They got the quite good.
Yeah, I was very. I didn't have it this time around, so I was trying something different. But I was quite like the Kirby from there, mostly because it has this weird like flashing ice cube in it, and it tastes like
Yeah, I
candy
remember
kind of
that one.
thing. But yeah, so that was kind of, and then the rest of my week really, I've just been mostly chilled. Obviously, my obviously Monday I had my birthday, so I had my birthday stream and stuff like that. And then
Yes,
Wednesday
how
was
was that? Happy belated birthday.
yeah, it was great. Yeah, yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I had some delicious kebab because there's a place in Sheldon which does really good like posh kebab, like posh Istanbul style kebab. So yeah, the early part of my week very busy. The latter part mostly sleeping and kind of recovering really from the whole Christmas thing because yeah, New Year's was very
Happy
busy, and then
Christmas.
everything up to my birthday was quite busy. So I hadn't really stopped since Christmas. So I was just sleeping most of the last half of
Wow.
this week. Like I woke up at woke up at 2 p.m. today because I was just that.
Ooh.
My body was just like, I need to recover. It's like okay, but I feel better now. I do feel better now.
That's good. That's me thinking. I keep myself busy. Um, yeah. So what you got up first?
Let's do our tabletop book club first. So,
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Let me find the name of it again. So
hmm
I did get a really decent one. I went to Wayland's Forge and I found they have a. It's basically it's a really good hobby shop. Have a lot of good third party stuff. They have a whole section where they're just getting rid of all the stuff for a fiver, and I
hmm
found something that's great. There's one of the Pathfinder adventure paths called. There we go. The annoying part is one of a series, so it's quite irritating because I could only find the one. Secrets of the Sphinx. There it is.
nice.
It's basically you check out a Sphinx. It's all, but it's I quite like the art. I don't know what it is about it. Paizo art is quite hit and miss sometimes because I don't like how they draw goblins because they look. I'll show you, they look really. They give them like comically large heads, so I can't really take them seriously. But sometimes they absolutely they absolutely nail it.
hmm
I'll just pop an image of the cover. Basically, it's I don't know. I don't really get Pathfinder that well, but
Yeah,
it's basically you investigate a three-part thing. You investigate a tomb, and so it's presumably looking for the mummy's mask,
mm.
and it's very authentic, like fantasy ancient Egyptian, and I'm all about that kind of aesthetic. I love desert settings. I've been tinkering with stuff for Harakir, which is an older ancient Egyptian Middle Eastern style setting. This is kind of up my alley. Been using the maps at the back of this, which are really quite good for like Oasis inspiration and stuff.
hmm
Um, Montevideo weird as well. It has a new type of sphinx, which is very cool. It's called
Oh,
cryosphinx. It's not icy. It's just a new type of sphinx that I don't think they have in D&D. It's a Pathfinder exclusive. It's quite cool. Just I like how in depth it is. Like the back's got all sorts of fluff, like the older D&D books. It's all fluff about how just technology for surviving in deserts, wells, trebuchets for some reason. Really, it's really in depth. And for a fiver. I think I got quite lucky.
Mm.
Yeah, so the only thing I'm annoyed about with it is it does mention uh, a couple of species I just don't know about because I don't play Pathfinder,
Ah,
and they
right.
seem very cool. It's annoying. If I feel like I've come into the movie like three-quarters of the way through,
Yeah. So
but
I guess I do have a little bit more
yeah,
background on Pathfinder. I played like 2 or 3 sessions of Pathfinder 1 in terms of actual Pathfinder Society stuff. The equivalent's basically to Adventures League, basically, but Pathfinder Society stuff, I think, is a lot more in depth than Adventurers League because it's kind of like a campaign type thing where you can flip between different scenarios with your character being at certain levels. As long as you're playing something that's of your character's level, you'll get XP for it or something like that. I never really quite got the concept, but there's a lot more in depth. You have like a number, PFF number and stuff. You put your stuff on there and etc. So I have played a little bit of Pathfinder 1. I played like 1 session of Pathfinder 2, but I still don't understand half of it. It's not. I feel like it's not. It's it's not quite as easy to get into as 5e.
no. Apparently, it's based off 3.5e,
Yeah,
um, which explains why it's so segmented. Like the thing that Starfinder does this as well. But if you look at the character sheet, you know, indeed, you just have a proficiency bonus
yeah.
that's tied to your level. And if you were to like put in, I don't know, say a longsword attack on your character, you just put the entire modifier is your strength or dex or whatever plus proficiency. Pathfinder, it's have separate boxes for your stat bonus, your race bonus if that applies,
Hmm.
your class bonus separately for some reason because that can affect it, and a miscellaneous bonus which I can't see why you'd ever reference,
Yeah.
and that's your total hit modifier. And I'm not entirely sure why they do it that way around.
Maybe there's something in it like your. I mean, there's that reincarnation, which means your racial modifier could change depending on an effect.
Yeah,
Maybe there's
I
something that
get that, but
negates or changes certain modifiers. Maybe it's
yes, yeah, but
something
I
like,
get that bit. But
okay, you have your tabaxi with a racial. Let's say you have like a racial bonus to history, but that might not necessarily apply if you're looking at ancient human ruins because, your
it
expertise is
does make
specifically tabaxi
sense.
based history.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I kind of get that. Where it loses me is why would you not just put that as one modifier?
Yeah,
Same
yeah.
space in the character sheet. So it's more for me. It's definitely a me issue. I just like
Or as a
my character
DM, just
sheets to be
have
nice
the
and tight.
yeah, have the as a DM have the DC be slightly lower for depending on the context. It might be lower
Yeah,
for
that's
particular
just
members of
DM
Hive.
fiat that you can't
Yeah,
really pop onto a character sheet.
yeah.
Um, yeah, the system I'd like to get into Starfinder. There's just one too many moving parts
Mm,
that I don't think need to be there. It's my only real gripe with it. So same with Paizo in general.
yeah.
I'm sure if yeah, it probably could get into it. It's just I am running other games and writing another game. There's not a lot
It's
of
a
games
lot.
boiling on my head at
Yeah.
any given time. Yes. I mean, the book, though, is a really good read.
Hmm.
It just, I would say it does require some pre knowledge on Pathfinder. Like, if you don't know what some of these species are, like I don't, I thought, oh, that's cool. But I couldn't tell you a thing one about them. I know there's apparently there's half scorpion people. That's neat. Wouldn't mind more of some of that in other games, but I don't know a single one about them. Um, but yes, I'd say more. If you're into Pathfinder, pick them up, pick all them up. I just start in the middle for some reason because it was a fiver. But honestly, good book. I need to brush up on the base game though if I'm really gonna get stuck into it. For now, it's just reference material.
Mm. Makes sense. Sounds cool though. I always like the Egyptian themed stuff because that's like, again,
Oh,
Egyptology was
yes.
like my special
They really do
interest.
commit to it. Um, it's so like some with D&D, especially nowadays. There's the sort of like this unwritten rule where they seem to want to not offend real cultures.
Hmm.
Think if Wizards of the Coast, as they are now, would have handled this exact same scenario, they probably would have watered down the aesthetic a little bit and
Yeah.
made it seem a little more peaceable. Now, I think that would have lost its charm then,
Hmm.
because the Pathfinder, the art does the ancient edition theme justice.
Hmm.
What you found for this week?
So we're going through. We're skipping a bit because I don't have the issues to hand, but of issue 15 of the Hatchet Printworks D&D magazine. This talks about lifestyles, so Prince or Pauper, which I think is about backgrounds or level of wealth, since I think because obviously there's a thing with, as you know, the different, the lifestyle choices in D&D, things like the living arrangements or how much you spend at the inn and stuff like that, what kind of meals you have, which are more sort of flavour most of the time, but I suppose probably do have some role play and actual game differences. Like, if you were, say, a noble, you might spend more of your gold on going to a lovely inn and having a lavish meal. On the one hand, so more of
Yeah,
your lifestyle is more expensive, so your treasure reward isn't quite as great as, well, not as perceived as important as great or grand as, say, your pauper monk, but it also probably puts you in contact with other members of nobility. If you're at a fancy inn, you're rubbing shoulders with the elite, and that might give you some push and pull in a more political setting, I guess.
yeah. That's a bit
Um,
like some of the background stuff.
yeah.
Carry on there.
So you've got Sage Advice, Challenge Ratings, Multiple Monsters, Traps Part 1, Making Maps, and Dice Decisions. Ooh. So they've got like some actual like
Ooh,
actual advice stuff. The table below
that's
shows what a single character can handle in terms of a monster's challenge rating based on the character's level. See, this is something that's not actually in the book, I don't think. It's just sort of challenge
actually
ratings are not
useful
really
stuff.
explained properly.
Yeah.
So, for example,
Really,
a first level
yeah,
character should be able to handle 2 1/8 challenge rating creatures,
yeah,
1 1/4 CR creature,
yeah,
a third of a challenge half creature, so you need 3 to deal with 1 challenge half, and a party of 5 for a
yeah.
single challenge rating 1. Which is interesting. That's like this is how this works. Going a bit more in depth in explanation.
In
Meanwhile, a 5th level
in
character could
theory,
probably handle. In theory, a 5th level character should be able to handle 12 on average 1/8 CR creatures. As an example.
the the
Yeah.
default I go to for like CR, it's like can be a bit deceptive. Is the
Mm,
shadows
mm. Shadows,
because they are
ghosts.
the shadows in particular are pretty awful for it
Mm,
because they're only CR half, but they have a horrible effect. It's
yeah.
strength drain.
Mm,
In short, it does what? 2d6 plus 2 necrotic damage and reduces the strength score by 1d4.
mm.
It lasts until short or long rest.
Yeah. It's things
Only
like
16 hit points. They kind of,
yeah.
and they can move through space. They are literally shadows, but this for some reason they're CR half.
Yeah. So it says the benefit of
So that can be a
this.
little.
Mm. Benefit of the system is the DM doesn't have to send a large number of one type of creature to fight the party. Using the numbers on the table, it's possible to send in some lower powered monsters and some higher powered monsters as long as the balance is right. E.g., a party of five first level characters might be attacked by a group undead. One of these. It's funny you mentioned this! One of these could be a shadow, which has a challenge rating of 1/2. Oh, but the shadow doesn't attack. Sorry, guys, you picked the absolute worst choice here for somebody to pit against a level 1 party with other things.
You could throw multiple shadows at the
Well,
party.
they
That
said
would
a
go down
shadow doesn't
well.
attack alone. It's flanked by a skeleton. Its CR of 1/4 is a 1-to-1 value. And a zombie, same challenge rating as the
Yeah,
skeleton. But it's like, no, because because a shadow is really powerful for its CR level.
like, yeah, the skeletons and zombies that actually does seem like level one fodder.
The
Yeah, that
DM
works out
the
fine.
DM now has 3 creatures attacking the party, but knows the character should still get a fair fight. Mm, mm.
Yeah, they're gonna have a real fun time finding out what stat loss is.
Yeah, if a DM
Yeah,
feeling particularly spicy, they could also enhance the fight by adding a few challenge ratings. 0 creatures. Again, this doesn't actually seem like I get the spirit of what they're trying to say, but in execution,
yeah.
this is bad advice. What they could have done here is with the shadow specifically, like actually, sometimes the CR could be a bit deceptive. Please, you should check the creatures and what they do.
Discretion.
Yeah, and have a bit of discretion. Then there's a bit about
Like,
traps. Traps in
did it
action who
really
later
say
trap.
spicy as well? Sorry.
What?
Did it really say if you're feeling spicy?
Yeah. Yep. So it says yeah. It's where yeah. If a DM is feeling particularly spicy, that the exact words.
Okay.
These
Just
monsters are
jumped
so
out at me.
weak that they don't affect the encounter building mass, but they add extra flavor and texture to the fight. It doesn't really matter. Like CR0 creatures, if they're enough of a nuisance, can still be a threat against level 1 party.
Yes, you're assuming they roll well.
Yeah.
That does not always happen.
So
I mean,
there's a
I
bit.
do like that people that try and make
Hmm.
sense of CR because it's sort of assumed
Yeah.
90% of the time.
Making maps. There's a bit about making maps. Teams will supplement these
That's
to their
good.
own
That's
detailed
good
maps of the
advice.
wilderness. Two basic approaches to mapping a campaign. Top-down approach starts with the map of the whole world and zooms in to a single continent and the kingdom, then finally region. Though this map to be fun, it's more time-consuming. We recommend starting bottom up, creating a map of the area where the campaign begins, then zooming out as the characters explore more widely. Again, this is good and bad advice because again you can get into if you do a bottom up approach, you can wind up encountering continuity errors. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but I generally agree with the bottom
Yeah,
up
yeah.
approach.
It's a case of things to be mindful if you do things that way. Of be careful of writing yourself into a corner if you do a bottom up approach. Sorry.
Yeah, I would say the strength of a bottom up approach is that if like players will find something weird to do that you didn't plan on doing, but if you're like a new DM, if you write up a room and you know exactly what is in said room and you've got it all written down, you have to do like minimal improvising.
Hmm.
So that is the strength of the bottom up approach. Is that at least you know what's in that particular area, and you can improvise around that, but you've got a good core already there for you.
Hmm. There's a bit about dice decisions and
That's cool.
the concept. Well, it doesn't really talk about fudging rolls, but it does describe the DM screen of whether you roll in front of the screen or behind, which is interesting. This could be, the ethos of rolling in front of the screen versus rolling behind the screen. The idea of, yes, having it behind the DM screen potentially creates tension because the players don't know what you've rolled, but also rolling in front of them shows you're not fudging your rolls. I think that's pretty cool. Some DMs employ a mixture of both. Yeah, I would say that both is probably a good idea. Most of the time have it behind the screen, sometimes throw it in
Yes.
front, just to establish trust with your players. But that's a very difficult
Yeah,
line to
yeah.
tie.
Depends on the game though. I've seen some of the some. You could make it really interesting if you look if like attack rolls are generally rolled in plain sight.
Hmm.
I've seen a really fun rule where the DM rolls all death saves.
Hmm.
That could be quite tense. Or if it's a horror game, you don't necessarily want your players to know what you're rolling for. up on edge. So in certain games, it actually is better to roll without them knowing, but only on certain things. You gotta
Yeah,
weigh it up before you go ahead.
there's a bit about lifestyles. This is mostly so the lifestyle stuff is mostly just the rules from the player handbook about the
PHP.
wretched and
Yeah.
squalid and poor and modest and comfortable, etc., and wealthy and aristocratic. I think this might be the same or similar wording as in there. It's just a handy resource to have, I guess. I suppose a lot of this is like, okay, I guess the magazine is designed in such a way that it's not assuming that whoever's reading this has a player handbook, has a monster manual,
Yeah.
etc. It's designed so that you can use this to play D&D even if you don't have those things. There's a bit about the trinkets table, which I think is the same trinkets table from the HB. Well, it could actually be different. Again, I don't have both of them to hand, so I can't quite tell you, but it is pretty cool. I think this might be about the same. Either which way. And then there's a little bit about the Feywild, which is pretty cool. There's a cool little picture of these
That's
fairy dragons. Lots of... Are those cranes or flamingos?
what does it look like?
Well, they're... I think they're more like flamingos because they're very much on the ground and not... Oh, no, there's a few flying around. Oh, maybe they are cranes. Bugger.
Well, what's their beak like? They can
It's
use a
long.
difference.
It's more long and pointy. It's not
That's
as...
probably more classic crane.
Yeah. So, Fey crossings, Feywild magic. Ah, here we go. So, our adventure for this week, or encounter this week, is called Haunted Tomb of the Dragon Slayer. It's the conclusion of a two-part encounter set in the ancient
That's
tomb
good
and
and
elven hero
generic.
in
I like
Winter
it.
Wood. So, this is actually the second half of one in issue 14, but we'll look at this briefly. So, following a treasure map, the adventures are travel to the tomb of Levelin Aldastian in the Neverwinter Woods. This is a Neverwinter-based adventure. Inside they find the dead body of cultist of Orcus and encounter the rest of the spirits of Levitin's companions. Of course, that had to be an elven name. They have just opened the door to the hero's crypt. So we've got some key locations. We've got a tooltip on mithril chainmail, which I think might be something
Ooh,
that's in the book. Is in like the actual, it might be an actual
that's
item.
cool loot. I like that.
Tintaros. Okay, the canon before. Oh, so there's a recurring character potentially. Interesting. So apparently it says players who played the encounter 2 or encounter 5 will have heard this name before. The characters will have all forgotten mention of Tintaros. You apparel spell the whites on memory of him, the minds of mortal folk. The characters forget about him. So seemingly then there is in fact a through line between all these encounters. So this set of magazines does constitute a campaign. I would assume then if there's a reoccurring character, that's cool. So assuming that you could play this as a one shot or you could play it as a series of campaign. That's actually kind of cool, actually. And we've got a stat blocks
Yeah, I like
for...
that.
Yeah.
You read modular.
Yeah. And we've got a stat block for something called a Restless Spirit, which I think is possibly unique to this. Medium Undead Elf, neutral. Interesting. Spectral Longsword. I think this might be the... Because each thing usually comes with the unique stat block thing. And there's also a bit at the back for the Banshee, which actually is some cool artwork. Obviously, Banshee is part of the monster manual, but it's still cool that, having it to hand. Again,
Yeah,
throwing a Banshee
what,
at people, though. Yeah.
what level are they going in at? 'Cause that can be a very quick death.
CR4. I don't know what level we're supposed to be at this point. It might... Because this is the second half of a... Playtime 2 to 4 hours. It doesn't say because it's the second half of another adventure, I guess.
Okay.
So I'm probably going to assume this is they're probably at level 4 at this point, it being issue 15.
Okay, yeah. That seems about
Oh
right.
no, hang on. This encounter is balanced for second level characters. Never fucking mind then. You're throwing
Is
the
it?
CR4 Banshee at them. What?
So that's a bit mean, I think. Okay.
Maybe there's a trick to it. Maybe there's another thing to it, maybe.
I hope so,
Statue
because
prize.
that someone could get a very funny idea, run it as written, and go, "Oh, that shouldn't have happened."
Oh, there might be something about talking to the Banshee and parlaying with it, I guess.
Oh, right. Okay. That's like in the Starfinder get started stuff. There's an encounter with a basically mechanical dragon,
Mm.
which
Oh,
normally would be like,
yeah.
oh,
Also,
yeah,
there's a
but
bit.
it's
Yeah, there's also a
carry
bit
on.
where she says it says when Corinne is reduced 25 hit points or less, she flees through the wall to her lair to make her last stand. The character
Okay,
loses to 0 HP, a look at peace
okay.
prisoner. So there is a kind of a thing where she will flee if she's damaged enough.
Yeah,
So you could
find a
like get rid
mechanical
of her.
dragon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um. Yeah. Interesting stuff. Anyway, yeah, that was my um bit of the week. That was pretty neat. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like it's a good introductory thing for new DMs because there's working many more players than DMs. I'm
Hmm.
okay with teaching people how
Well, I
to do
think
that.
this magazine
Um,
seems to
yeah.
be mostly DM focused. There's a bit of like player based stuff in there, but I think it's more DM focused than anything else, which is good actually, because yeah.
Cool. So what's up
So,
next?
critical fumble is up next. Do we have a critical fumble for this week?
Yes, I'm going to have to. Yes, there is actually. There's a few, but I think just in a personal one, I'm going to have to put critical fumble on the weather because I'm English and because the first day of the fundraiser was kind of buggered because it was so foggy. Nobody wanted to come out to
Oh
the
no.
car show and stop by the dogs because they weren't there for the most part. It's a bit annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's honestly, I don't know if this is the state of the industry, but I am barely running short of of things that are going wrong somewhere in the industry.
Mm.
Um, right. I think that the big one that I've seen is so obviously Sonic 3 has been out now for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
People like Sonic 3.
Yep.
It's done very well for itself. It is not eligible for and for jump the award. Might be an Oscar. Yes,
It's not
it's not
eligible.
eligible for an yes, Oscar because of there's some very specific requirements a movie has to hit to be eligible for the award.
Oh, blooming heck.
It's and it is diversity and equity based.
Oh. Sorry,
So I'll try and find the rules.
Jim Carrey's playing two characters. He can't get an Oscar. What do you mean? Well, he's playing two characters. He's got to, you've got to have different people playing different characters. But they're relative. The point is that those two characters are related and should look very similar to each other. Have you ever played Sonic Adventure 2?
Most of them are hedgehogs or animals or something.
Well, it's like no, because it's like
Um,
if you've ever played Sonic Adventure 2, you would know that Gerald Robotnik just looks like an older Dr. Robotnik. That's kind of the point. He just looks older. He has the same mustache and everything.
yeah. Um,
Oh
yes.
dear.
Let's have a look. Find the qualifiers because they do have some qualifying rules that are quite interesting. Um, so for that reason, although weird flip side of that is Disney's been getting excited because they had there was it Mufasa obviously
Uh-huh.
coming out,
I heard that was
and
like
that
not
movie,
gonna be great.
yeah, it's not done fantastic. Um, and they've been saying, oh, it's done, it's had an amazing viewership in America, um, which does not say people like it or anything. It's like they're really fishing for a
Yeah.
certain like a certain way of phrasing it. Um,
It's like, oh, but loads of people watched it. Yeah, a load of people wound up watching
it's
the Emoji Movie. Doesn't make it good.
a lot of people watched season one of the Rings of Power because it was new.
Yeah,
Wait,
a
hang
lot.
on.
I was
There's
gonna
the
say.
second. Okay, you're gonna like this. Let me check this list so I'm getting this in right according to Yahoo Entertainment. So, okay, There's a long list of stuff that did not qualify. Unfortunately, Craven the Hunter has not. Zen Web has not. Deadpool and Wolverine didn't. Oh, took me
Huh?
that would have won. Godzilla X Kong that could have won something. That's pretty fun. Yeah, there's a lot. Apparently, it's 36% of all movies that are up for it. Hang on, that are ineligible.
What the hell?
Sonic 2 on here. Sonic 2 is also on here. Oh, hang on. Here's funny though. You know what's not on? You know what's not eligible?
Go on.
Moana 2. Oh, and Megalopolis. Oh, that's very funny. So basically, is it Martin Scorsese made a very strange, arty movie.
Uh-huh.
I haven't seen it. Can't say it's any good, but it's really arty. So it's like he's really trying for that Oscar or that
Hmm.
big award movie.
It's not even
I
eligible.
don't think. Yeah, not eligible.
What the What are the criteria? I
Yeah,
mean, for years, to be fair, for
I know.
years, I know this from the film industry, and you probably know this too. For years, like the Oscars has like been judged and run by a bunch of pretty old men who have very specific thoughts on what should and shouldn't get isn't
Yes,
what
it's
isn't a movie,
former.
basically.
I think it's a lot of them former actors and theatre
Yeah.
people. So that's why whenever a film about movies or the theatre comes out, oh, they love it. How funny.
Yeah.
Um, funny that it. Yeah, it's there is. Now, keep in mind this is a theory, but there's a theory that some of the reason is because there are additional rules this year for diversity and equity reasons,
Right.
which might be why
Hmm.
uh, Sonic 3 in particular has not
Yeah.
not
I mean,
made the cut
also, it's
for
also
Oscar
worth
nomination.
noting that famously, the Oscar judges have never particularly favored animated movies or movies with animation in them. They
It's
have
also
famously
historically
never liked
true,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. They've also never liked that in general. And I think as
That's true,
well,
but yeah,
I think possibly the reason they decided to not even consider giving Deadpool and Wolverine an award is because it's a superhero movie, and I think that the Oscar judges are getting sick of superhero movies now, which I guess
I
I
can
don't
believe it. But
blame them.
yeah, that's one of the better ones though in recent years.
Hmm,
Yeah,
but I
so
don't know.
a lot of people are naturally unhappy because I haven't seen it, but apparently that movie is actually doing quite well for itself.
Hmm.
Not that I think not getting an Oscar is going to hurt the film any at this point, but
No.
yeah. So what were you
Generally, I
found for this
think
week?
that yeah, I was going to say,
Sorry.
genuinely, if you want to know if a movie's good, look at its don't look at if it's got an Oscar award, because generally the Oscars is just very pretentious. They look at much more
Very
pretentious
biased as
that yeah,
well.
and there's a more sort of industry sort of ideas of what makes a film good, rather than what general audience think the movie is good. Look at its go on IMDb and look at and Rotten Tomatoes and look at their viewer scores there. Generally
Just
speaking,
the audience score, Marty.
unless they've been review bombed, generally they're accurate.
Yeah, the critics can be bought off, and they say this is somebody who wanted to be a film critic.
Hmm.
So it was a face. Yeah,
So it's you know what the weird thing is? My critical fumble isn't even necessarily like a gripe. I don't. It's kind of a is this something I'm annoyed about, or is this a good thing or a bad thing? Is my question, because my critical fumble for this week is that there isn't any new Aether Drift news. And so the silly thing with this is that there's now pre-orders are now available, but the spoiler season hasn't really started for that set yet. And I'm like, I know with like other sets, it's been like, oh, for fuck's sake, why are they spoiling the set already? And giving all the information on the stuff in the set. But I feel like now they're doing the opposite of like now they're waiting way too long before telling us, showing us anything new. The proper spoiler seeds. Like where's the lore for the set? Where's the story for the set? Where's the cards for the set? Where is everything? Am I? Because the current set that just released, Innistrad Remastered, is a remaster set, so you don't really need to have a spoiler system generally for a reprint set. Okay, maybe a little bit on the cards, but you don't generally need that much in that. But for Aether Drift is an entirely different. Well, it's not an entirely different plane, but it's an entirely different part of the setting. It's a new bit setting wise, and I'm like, where am I so used to Wizards spoiling everything and everything under the sun? I'm like, where's the cool shit? I don't know. Is this a good thing that they're waiting a bit, or is this a bad thing that they're waiting a bit? I don't know. I'm now second guessing myself.
Schrodinger's card release. It is and both is not
Yeah.
coming out.
Also in Wizard the Coast, I'm just gonna copy this image. Because this is more of a silly critical fumble than a Wizard the Coast being stupid critical fumble. There's the vagina shaped island. I'll just
find out about that one then.
I'll just post the image. I'll just look at this and tell me this doesn't look slightly suspicious. I get the idea of what they're going with, but
Right.
It's in Cursed
Wait, with bated
Heartlands.
breath here.
It's in Cursed Heartlands in the.
Oh,
yeah,
wow,
yeah. I was like,
wow.
wait a minute.
What? Why is it still from Yellow Submarine?
I don't know. I don't know. But it looks like did no editor look at this and go, well, hang on a minute here. Hold up 1 second. This looks a bit suggestive.
I do kind of want to see like a whole set done in this art style though.
Oh, they have done. It is a set of actually. I'll copy the link to the what is the secret lair chaos.
Let's have a look. It's got a weird like vaporwave look to it.
Yeah, so it's kind of got like
yeah,
that is what it is. Chaos Vault. So this is those ones. So they've done a full cycle of lands, but it's just the island. It's just like I get what they were trying to do, but it looks like if you've ever played an old Kirby game and there's that one level that if you zoom out, it makes like the silhouette of a naked woman. Did anyone like check this beforehand and go, maybe make it like slightly less weird?
I actually like that in a sort of Art Deco kind of way. It's a total gimmick, but I think it's kind of nice.
I like the look of the mountain from this set, but like it's just like hot. Obviously, everyone's taking the piss. It's not. I'm not mad at Wizards for making it do that, but like I was like, it is a bit funny. It is a bit. It's ha funny rather than funny.
Seriously, on the flip side, this card's going to do really well now because it's Vagina Island.
Yeah, but yeah, they've done all the spoiler stuff for Innistrad, and now they've got this thing. This was 2 days ago that they released the images for the secret lair, and there's still like pre-order stuff is now available for Aether Drift, and yet we know so little about it. Like you're supposed to have the spoiler season and everything before pre-orders are ready. Usually, like a little bit before.
Yeah,
I want to know what I'm buying.
Take your cue from Games Workshop. They know how to like tease stuff forever.
Yeah.
One thing they're good at as a company, that rumor mill is doing a lot of work.
But yeah, it just feels like Wizards are going in the opposite direction. It's like, okay, we've heard your feedback. We've heard your feedback of too many spoiler seasons too quickly. So we're not gonna tell you what's in the set of cards until the set is released near enough. Like, no, stop. Don't just be reasonable. Don't just
That was just an order, not a pre-order. Plus the pre.
yeah, yeah. It's like the funny thing is we know what color the dice is for the Aether Drift bundle before we know what half the cards in the fucking Aether Drift set are going to even be. That's how
Okay, so
weird
some
this
people just
is.
won't buy it.
Yeah, it's like,
It's
huh?
just like, oh, don't play that.
It's like,
It's
bro, what the
almost nice though, because it means that people aren't gonna go out and buy it because it's new, and then find out it doesn't fit their deck.
Hmm. But it's like, it's like this is what the spoiler season's for. It's like, know if we want to invest in the set or not. We need a card list before we buy packs. It's like, because if even the mythic, if let's say for example, Aether Drift drops and there's not a single mythic, I mean, there's going to be cards that people obviously, the idea is that somebody's going to want something in the set in general. But what if one person, looks at it and is like, there's actually not a single card in the set that I give a shit about, even the mythics, and they've bought this bundle and they're upset because
Have
you
all
had,
of them.
yeah,
Have all of the
because
stuff you don't want.
yeah, and they stopped buying Magic stuff as a result because they didn't, because of one bad set that they didn't, because the spoiler season was a bit too delayed. Like, come on.
Yeah, that is an odd. I might. Yeah, you think I might put that's a fumble. I just think that's an odd position.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, on the one hand, I get it. Like, product fatigue is a thing, and they're probably like, yeah, we should probably not product fatigue our players and buy customers quite so much. But on the other hand, it's like, we need to know what's in the set before we buy it. And it would be nice to have more information before pre-orders. It would be like Fallout 76 being ready for pre-orders without any trailers for it.
Yeah, that's the one thing that game had going. The trailer was actually quite good.
Yeah, yeah. Like, we need a bit more information before we want to go and, like, okay, I would like to purchase this now. You know. Like, I think we know approximately only 3 cards in the entire set. Technically 4, but we don't know the rules on what Aether Spark is going to actually do. So we know a total of
You
3
can't
cards
for a whole bundle.
for a whole, like, Magic the Gathering set, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I could see some people just opting out of that. Frankly, I don't
yeah.
Magic the Gathering players
Particularly as
like
a
the new
lot of
thing now.
people, are already skeptical of the set because it's the wacky racers Magic set basically, and a lot of people like weirded out by like the tropification of Magic at the moment. So the least you could do is let us know what mechanical cards are in the set, mechanics wise, so the people who care more about mechanics than aesthetics will be like, okay, this card fits in my deck. It looks weird and I don't particularly like it, but it does what my deck wants to do, therefore I will buy the set. This isn't the kind of
but
set you can sell on aesthetics alone, because you've already seen that a lot of people are a bit umming and ahhing about whether they like the aesthetics or not.
What do you say? Wacky races. Wacky races.
Wacky racers, yeah.
Not
Because
surprised. I am surprised, but why am I not surprised? That's so weird.
it's like the Wacky Racers / Mario Kart type set, basically.
I all right. I don't think I get why they're doing this set, but I mean, I'm not running it, so they can.
Yeah, I admit, hot take, I kind of love the aesthetic of this set, but then I really
Oh
love
yeah,
dumb
yeah.
shit like
Yeah.
Mario Kart, so. But I do get that I'm not really like, if I were to be taking Magic lore seriously, this set would insult me because it does feel like they're not taking
Yeah.
their world seriously anymore. Like, this is
They've
a
been doing
bit
that a
silly.
while, though. I think.
Yeah, this is a bit.
That's a
I
bit of a
mean,
late card to call.
Murders of Karlov Manor, the detective clue noir set was a bit silly as well, as was Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Like, could we maybe, I admit slightly hypocritically that I didn't like those because they were silly. and I like this because it's silly. So it's like slightly hypocritical. It's like, okay, it's the kind of flavor of silly that I specifically like, but for every like one set that they're gonna make that will hit my specific interests, like oh, it's the car set. There's gonna be like 5 or 6 tropes where you're like, yeah, I don't care. It's like, hmm. Anyway, that's beside the point. The point was that I need to know what's in the
I think
set.
just kind of like the art style. It just gets me thinking. Yeah, me think like no, that's 920s. Like card. Oh, it's all
Yeah,
making sense there.
I think
Um,
so.
it kind of really reminds me of that. I'd like to see a whole set with that aesthetic in mind
Hmm.
because look a 1920s New York Empire State Building aesthetic would be quite interesting for just a set of lands, just a gimmick set of lands or something,
Oh, they did the Art
or for the
Deco.
more
So
modern.
you want to look at? I think it's New Capenna Fallout Lands. They did do that. I'm pretty sure. If you look at the Fallout Lands of
Oh,
New
maybe
Capenna,
do.
they did exactly that. That kind of Art
Okay,
Deco style.
I might do that. I'll have to give that a go. Right. We're up next.
What time are we on? I guess we do a homebrew of the week
Well,
now.
okay, yeah. I've been busy this one, but so where do I start? Where do I start? I've got a selection this week. I will go with a couple, a serious one and a not so, and a quite a funny one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this week I've got a couple of. I've got the perfect thing. This is unofficial spoilers for a project I've been wanting to work on a little while because I've never seen it done.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to do a whole D&D short campaign set entirely underwater
Ooh.
because there are some cool mechanics about that, and they're very rarely used, and it's not. I think they're not half bad. I'll give you a few briefly because I made a copy pasted list of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so basically, if you don't have a swim speed, you're kind of buggered. But given
Mm.
that it's to take place entirely underwater, you will have a swim speed.
I was about to make a
Um,
joke and say, even if that means your wheelchair has to have like propellers and like water propellers instead of blinking wheels.
I was more thinking I'll be really strict on what races you can play
Yeah, that makes sense.
because
Yeah.
it's a very specific one shot or campaign or whatever. You know that weird things. There's weird rules like creatures fully immersed in water are resistant to fire damage.
Ah, that does make
That's
sense.
just a thing. Yeah, I mean, hard to set you on fire if you're in water.
Yeah.
Um, this whole water conditions, it's like dark, like light levels, same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and exhaustion's slightly different as well. Like depending on the depth. If you're 100 feet down, um, you don't have a swim speed. You treat it as if for 2 hours of land travel,
Mm.
and that gets worse for 200 feet or lower.
Ooh.
It's like the dives or the bends. Another weird one, which I did not know about at all. Apparently, if you fall into water or any liquid, you can use a reaction to attempt a DC 15 athletics or acrobatics check, and if you pass, you just halve the damage.
Interesting.
It only specifies liquids. So that's just a fun little thing.
Me
But my
diving
actual
into
homebrew
vinegar from
is
200 feet.
I don't care if you halve that. I think, frankly, you're probably gonna die.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm gonna start with just a little sneak peek of the player race for the Coalinths, which appeared briefly and it was um, Ghost of Saltmire, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
They're underwater hobgoblins, and they are. I think there would be a really decent player race for this because they have a really quite a straightforward kind of vibe. They're
Mhm.
more like underwater peoples, sort of like orcs of the sea, and people generally like half orcs.
Mhm.
And they can breathe underwater pretty much perpetually. So their swim speed is their walking speed, actually 5 feet quicker than the walking speed. Um, I did homebrew a little lore for them. The short of it is uh, they long centuries ago they had an alliance with the Sea Elves that they share a lot of terrain with because they sort of allied with them. You know, them being somewhat warlike, they're quite good at like quite good at war. It turns out. Um, so they would sort of do what the some of the Germanic tribes did with the Romans and sort of allied with them for a bit
Mm.
on the condition that whatever they conquer, they keep.
Mm.
And that was broken one day, and ever since then there was a bit of a civil war. Ended in a really ugly stalemate. So since then, it's not a universal rule because some covenants sort of allied with styles, but some just didn't. There's a cultural divide there.
Mm.
Um, so there's a bit of a enmity there between the two species. They just do not like each other very much, frankly,
Yeah.
unless they're sort of in-house and loyal to the CLs already. Which I imagine that's more for like player. It's more for players than anything else. So there's not people killing each other
Yeah.
during the game so much. So as for their traits, they're aquatic. Obviously, they're underwater the whole time. Militaristic, sort of like hobgoblins. They get
Mhm.
light armor proficiency, no matter their class, and they're good with one weapon or tool of their choice. I think that's just a neat one because they are like hobgoblins. So
Mm.
I'm just gonna put that over and give it a tweak. I gave him the hobgoblin the ability of saving face, which I think is very funny. Basically, whenever you miss an attack roll or fail a save, you can choose to give that roll a modifier equal to the number of friendly creatures or constructs that can see you make that roll. It's
Right.
once per short long rest, but it's like you can mess up, but you're so prideful, you just say, "Oh, I meant to do that," and it might actually work. So this is kind of fun and ties them back to hobgoblins quite a bit. Um, I gave them a version of like the lizard man trait where they can make bone weapons in like an hour
Yeah.
if they uninterrupted. You kind of tinker with that a bit. So basically, coalescence they spend 2 hours working on suitable material like bone or coral because this is underwater.
Mm.
Metal weapons not really going to be a thing. Um, they can make any one simple weapon out of bone or coral if they have 2 hours of
Mm.
interrupted work and the right tools. And because they're sort of slightly orky and warlike, uh, the trait is literally called warlike. They have an advantage on save to avoid being frightened while they're within attack range of a hostile target. They're
Mm.
just sort of used to being in a fight. Um, so playstyle wise, they come across a little bit like orcs, but that was sort of like a good baseline. Um, the CLs are already a thing. I'm just having to scrounge the internet for potential races that need to be underwater or could be underwater all the time without it being a problem.
Kuatoa, no, the frogs are
That's a
only
great
set. The
point.
frog type people are only semi-aquatic, aren't they?
Yes.
Um,
Oh my god, if someone can play Lakatha,
mhm. You could
but
always
always
look
submerged.
to. Granted, you wouldn't use them, but you could look for inspiration from that one, the gills subtype. I think of the simic hybrid. So you could technically do like manta ray people. You
Oh,
could
yeah, I
use
know
them
the
as an
one you're on about.
idea, as a
So that trait.
base. You could even have it as just like replacing it. You could even just do it instead of Simic Hybrid. You flavor it or rename it as custom lineage aquatic because most of the Simic stuff is like really aquatic based because
Yeah,
blue. They've got
I
blue
think the only
identity.
hard fast rule is the character in question must have a reason for living underwater in the first place. You can't
Yeah,
just be a surface person that's also here. And you have to have a swim speed and be able
yeah.
to breathe underwater all the time. 'Cause otherwise, you're just going to have a miserable time of it,
Hmm.
frankly. And that's just no fun for anyone. Um, so yeah, that's a little spoiler for what I'll be working on going forward. The other thing, nice and quick, is Do you ever play Oblivion when it
Yes.
was original release? It was
I.
good because I I thought I was wanting to do like a low level monster
Mhm.
or random dungeons, and maybe I was inspired thinking of doing as a bit of a joke doing a Oblivion themed dungeon,
Uh-huh.
complete with the color palette and everything. I just made the imps. I just stat blotted the imps out because I quite like
Nice.
them. And I thought, like, what's a low level enemy? Oh, funny little imps. So they fly. They're 10 feet slower on ground. They're pretty much all speed, 12 intelligence, so they can actually use magic somewhat. They've only got a +2 to hit with their basic attacks,
Mhm.
because they're kind of wimpy. But they're not. But they do, because apparently I didn't know this, but apparently in the game they get either a frost, lightning, or fire spell.
Nice.
So I translated that into a cantrip level spell of all the damage types
Makes
that
sense.
they could have had. Just a really easy conversion. The imp's kind of a cute little monster, and I kind of call them grey imps because they've already got the infernal imps.
Mhm.
And to just make them, I just thought it'd be cute to just make that a thing. So I've been thinking of doing a sort of half serious Oblivion inspired dungeon, complete with music and everything. Um, so yeah, what have you got?
So I've been
I might
carrying.
even attempt the
Mhm.
Imperial Tablet. Carry on there.
Sorry. I've been carrying on with the conversions this week. I'm kind of trying to get through a big pile of magic conversions because that's kind of my special interest. This week we have a
Oh, yeah.
few Phyrexian things, if you've heard. Those like
I
weird body
remember
horror type
Junji
boys.
Ito did some art for it.
hmm So we've got a
Remember very
couple of
rightly.
we've got a classic one, a relatively modern one, and something else. So first of all, we've got the Phyrexian Gargantua, which is a classic Phyrexian creature that it dates back to like the OG era of Magic, which continued to kind of be a thing throughout all eras of Phyrexia. Basically, they're just really. The point is, they're just really, really big Phyrexians that even like Phyrexia itself can't really control. They're just rabid, murderous, big behemoths, basically. Um, so I did them as a CR6 thing because I wanted. I haven't really looked at the 3.5 Mirrodin Phyrexia stuff because I feel like even if I looked at that, there'd be so much I'd have to convert anyway to fifth, and there's probably a load that just isn't in there anyway because you know what Wizards is like, even in 3.5. So the
Oh yes,
CIS6
of course.
creature, they are. I did them as huge, even though they're called a Gargantua. I was like, I don't. They're not that strong, so I don't really want to make them gargantuan,
Like,
even if that gargantua's in their name.
you can just do it to annoy people. They're
Yeah.
valid.
Uh, so they've got resistant, immune to necrotic because they're black innate creatures, and Phyrexians are probably usually immune to that anyway. Vulnerable to radiant because they're Phyrexians, holy magic probably does hurt them. Resistant to bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing with
Yep.
weapons are not magical or adamantine. The idea that their like skin is just that hard, basically. When it engages in combat,
Okay, no, that's
yeah. So this is I've done a few like interesting things. So when it engages in combat after initiative, but before initiative count 0 on the first round. Sorry, that should be initiative count 20. Basically, before anything else occurs on the first round, it may choose to make an attack action on a valid creature. If it does, Phyrexian
right.
Gargantua loses 2d6 hit points. This is just referencing its effect. So it's the idea that if it tries to hurt, if it overexerts itself as soon as it enters combat, it can attack immediately, but it also hurts itself in the process. Which is a theme for
That
this is a theme for
that's
old
interesting.
Phyrexian stuff.
Okay.
Like in the card text, a lot of old Phyrexian stuff, it's a case of this does a thing, but it doing the thing hurts you somehow. For example, the actual card text here, it says, when it comes into play, you draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. That's the same for a lot of Phyrexian stuff. It's you do this or it does this, but it also like hurts you to do that. So I wanted to like put that in there. It bleeds Phyrexian oil instead of regular blood. When hit by an attack, the attacker must make a DC 15 dex save to avoid getting sprayed with blood. On a failed save, they are covered in oil. and that has a 50% chance, so you roll percentile to infect them with phyresis each round until it's cleaned off. I briefly touched on phyresis, I think, a long time ago on the podcast. It's that disease that slowly turns you into
Right.
Phyrexian. Again, there's a lot of parallels between Phyrexia and Eldrazi of the whole. Hey, you might become one of these.
Just slightly weirder Junji Ito inspired thingies
Yeah,
rather than the
yeah.
John Carpenter inspired things.
But I put in about one, two, three, four, five. I've put in about 5 paragraphs of lore on these guys, based on excerpts from a bunch of what I headcanon in universe books called the History of Dominaria, or related to the History of Dominaria, because that's the plane that they attacked the most, basically. I won't go into it here because it's 5 paragraphs worth of text. But if something,
Yeah.
if you join the Discord, all these items will be on the Discord, and you can read it all there. But basically,
Got most, if not all, of our homebrew on there.
yeah, to summarize, this basically talks about the history of these creatures throughout various different iterations of them. So the volume 3, this excerpt from volume 3 talks about the original Phyrexian Gargantuas as they were founded Dominaria during the first invasion, then during the second invasion Dominaria, then during the events of March of the Machines. And that's so 3 separate eras of basically the same kind of creature, because referencing that this creature shows up, has had multiple different reprints, basically, across all 3 different invasions of Dominaria.
Okay.
But that's the first one.
That makes
The
sense.
second one, which is loosely
Yeah.
based off it, because they're quite similar, is a weaker one called the Flesh Reaver. If you look at the art for Flesh Reaver, by the way, it's a very gribbly little lad. I'll try and see if I can pull it up on the Discord. He's a weird looking guy, but he's also another
He is
classic.
I love him. He's a weird looking guy,
Yeah,
though.
he's a very classic boy.
Which version am I looking at? Because there's one. Oh, that's World Anvil. That's never mind. See about the old version that I'm looking at, Urza's Saga.
Yeah, Urza Saga. Yeah.
And he looks quite cool though. It reminds me of Splatter. Have you got the game called the game Splatterhouse? There's a
Yes.
lot of that in there. Okay.
So these guys have the same kind of damage resistances, vulnerabilities. They're CR3, so they're a lot weaker. And the reason for that is,
cool.
even though they've got
Like,
100
cool.
hit points for a CR3 creature, I've referenced their effect text. So they have the trait left unfinished. So when it deals damage, it takes that much damage as psychic damage, which is referencing its effect. So they are like pretty damaging,
So is that
but
why it's
they hurt themselves like dramatically. And
so
again,
do all these cards have like really high vitality because they constantly hit themselves?
yeah, so Flesh Reaver, for example, is a 2 mana cost 4/4, which is
Yeah.
pretty pushed. But it says whenever it deals combat damage to a creature opponent, Flesh Reaver deals that much damage to you, the player, the controlling it. Again, so it's this idea of it having being powerful, but with a serious downside, which was a mainstay of
It's like,
old black magic cards.
it sounds like the magic version of the original Toon card deck from Yu-Gi-Oh.
Mm-hmm.
We get that's remarkable. You rather than life points, you're paying in damage to you. Okay.
Yeah. It also has something called Insult to Injury. This is kind of a buff to it, but an interesting idea. When it successfully deals damage to a summoned creature with an attack, its summoner must make a DC 15 Charisma save. The summoner takes psychic damage equal to the damage dealt to their summoned creature after the success.
Okay.
Yeah, so it has that. So the idea I decided for this in lore is that they were designed by Phyrexia to deal with planeswalkers summoning things and therefore just hanging back and not taking any direct damage from the Phyrexian enemy. It's like, right, we've got to deal with these like planeswalkers because they're just sat back there throwing their summoned cannon fodder at us and we can't hit them. Well, what if we make a thing that targets the psychic link between them and their summoned creatures, basically?
I like that because that's another subtle way of getting anti spellcaster stuff in there.
Mm. And it
Yeah,
has a bit of
I'm
blurb
quite
as
like the sound
well.
of that.
Has the same Phyrexian blood thing. And then finally, we have perhaps one of the first times I've decided to tackle a legendary creature. So a named
Ooh,
character.
okay.
So this is Keskit, the Flesh Sculptor, who is part of like the more modern Phyrexian group. So the new Phyrexia peoples. And he is a legendary creature. He's a human artificer, but he's like, a Phyrexian boy. So he has immune to necrotic because he's black innate, resistant to cold, and vulnerable to radiant. He may use an action to jerry-rig 3 magic items, machines, or willing/dead creatures together. So he kind of like crafts, basically, uses an action to craft something. When he does,
Okay.
he may choose one of the following. Create a monster, which creates a Phyrexian creature of black identity. I've decided, DM Fiat, check cards for this, since I can't be asked to write down every single magic creature, every single conversion thing. I'm not going to tell you what its colours are. So check all of CR3 or lower. I thought that was quite fair, because he himself is a CR4 creature, or CR7 if he's encountered in his lair, but we'll go into that in a bit. He may cast a spell without expending a spell slot. The idea that he's like crafting a makeshift device to cast the spell for him. Or, quote, save one for later. He gains a charge point, which he may use to cast counterspell without expending a spell slot. Again, kind of that anti-magic type thing going for him. Because I kind of get the idea, because there's not much lore on Keskit in the wiki, the idea that he's probably quite a bit of a coward. So he would use counterspell, as if it's going out of fashion. If encountered in his lair, he may choose up to 2 lair actions at initiative 20 each round, which is activate trap, activate one of Lair's traps, see adventure or your notes for details. I might write an adventure where he's in, but obviously if you use him outside of the set adventures, you're going to have to put traps in your map, basically. That just makes sense. Unleash a beast, release a creature of CR3 or lower. This should usually be a Phyrexian, but could be anything he's captured, because the idea is he helps run the Phyrexian arena for Sheoldred. That's his, lore. He makes shit and then captures shit and pits stuff against each other for the purpose of the great work. He's basically like, whoever, the Colosseum runner, basically. Or he may use expeditious movement. Keskit uses one of the lair's contraptions to move from one set point he is within lair to another. See adventure details for DM's homebrewing. Choose 2 distinct points in the lair that make sense to assign transit points between. These devices may be usable only by Keskit due to his unique anatomy. So it might be that he can teleport due to he might have an admin access code to 2 teleportation devices. There might be a zip line that only he can use due to his weird spidery legs, etc., etc. That use your imagination kind of thing. That the idea that he will just zip around, usually probably to get better viewing points during an arena match, but possibly sometimes to get away from danger. Again, this is why he's CR7 in his lair, because he is a lot more annoying. He's not stronger, he's just more annoying to deal with. He's
Weasley, yeah.
Yeah. He's treated as an artificer, so he is a hard caster. He is treated as an artificer. His spellcasting modifier is intelligence. Spell +9, spell save DC 17. The spell Beast Bond also works on any creature with a Phyrexian tag that he has captured or created. Because Beast Bond doesn't normally work on creatures that aren't beasts, but in his case it would make sense if it was, say, an aberration or a construct that was Phyrexian that wasn't intelligent enough to be considered sentient, basically. So if it's a Phyrexian that's, say, I don't know, a construct aberration of CR3 or lower, he can probably use Beast Bond on it, despite it not being a beast, because that just makes sense. He has piercing spider legs. So his actual attack is a 1d6 piercing damage attack with a relatively low modifier. So he is not good in melee. His actual non-spellcasting damage is pitiful. But he has the following spells.
He's a weird little scientist man with strange spider legs. Kind of makes sense that he doesn't do his own dirty work.
Yeah. but he knows Acid Splash, Green Flame Blade, Gust, On Off, which is a Unearthed Arcana spell, which is Technomancy, because again, Phyrexia is kind of techie in that regard. Yes, it wouldn't look the same as, say, turning a phone on or off, but it might be a case of turning on a piece of Phyrexian machinery in this case. And Sapping Sting, which I think is another, like, alternate but one. He can at will Beast Bond, Remote Access, which is another Technomancy spell, and Arcane Hacking, which is another Technomancy spell, second or third level only. Arcane Hacking in this case would be something like, I don't know, hacking into one of Urza's mechs or something, because it's Technomancy. He has 6 level 1 spell slots, which are Absorb Elements, Alarm, Burning Hands, and Expeditious Retreat. So a lot of this is like utility stuff rather than direct damage, because while he does have some damaging spells, he prefers to deal damage through his like captured creatures, basically. Okay. He does his minions. He has his minions do his dirty work for him. He has 4 second level spell slots, and his known spells for that are Blur, Darkness, Mirror Image, and Cordon of Arrows. Again, when he does have damaging spells, it's usually stuff that creates traps. And he has 2 level 3 spells, which are Counter Spell, Call Lightning, Haste, and Pulse Wave, which is... And I put for Pulse Wave, it's treated as a Technomancy in this case, as it's more like an EMP pulse rather, or like it's more like a technologically created pulse rather than something magical in origin. I mean, he's an artificer, so I don't know why I put that, but so yeah, that kind of asshole basically is Keskit.
Oh yeah, he fights from the back.
Yeah, because I've done a lot of.
Give me an idea though, so I'm not.
Yeah, I've done a lot of like lead from the front stuff and like monsters lately, so I really wanted to focus on more of a caster type for a change, and a character at that.
Yeah. I'm following. Give me an idea though. You could. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that much about Phyrexia, as the franchise is going. But what could be cool is if their healing magic has a weird side effect. It's all like body horror and messing with. What if, whenever they cast a healing spell, there's a weird chance it can either grant, let's say, +2 or -2 to AC, or -5 or +5 to movement speed until the next round, because it's unstable.
Yeah. Because it might cause weird element of chaos.
It feels as normal, but has a funny side effect they didn't necessarily plan for.
I might actually take on board your idea, because I do want to tackle at some point the quote-unquote head honcho of modern Phyrexia, Elish Norn, who is a white creature in terms of magic things, so probably would know healing spells, since she's basically a cleric.
Makes sense.
So I'm going to do Elish Norn at some point, but yeah, that's a brilliant idea, so thank you for that. So what else is there now that we've done the homebrew stuff? Any final closing thoughts?
Yes, yes, actually. I've been thinking. Another thing we could possibly do for like every second week might be quite decent. Mm-hmm. Is we could get right. So you were saying we've both got stuff we don't really write much, like concepts we rarely do.
Yeah.
We could, this is that the site you can just get a free random wheel and spin it. Mm-hmm. We got like a whole week. We could write it all down, like every idea that we rarely ever write. Mm-hmm. Put it down and randomize it, and have that be if there's time, one of the homebrews of the week.
Yeah.
Because that way we're sort of writing something we're not normally doing, and we could end up with what the other normally doesn't write as well. It could be quite funny. Mm. If we only do it every second week as well, that's so much time to think about effectively a side article.
I like that idea.
So throwing a bit of chaos into the mix. Yeah. Um, there's that, and let's see, next Sunday. No, I'm free next Sunday. I think I'm off the Lapworth Museum again. No, that's all. Any closing thoughts?
No. So on that note, we will probably see you all on the next week. Yeah.
See you next week.
So,
Are we raiding this
yes, we
store this
will
week,
do
or?
a raid out this week. Who do we want to raid this time around? Who's on my followers? I guess we can raid. I'm not actually bloody sure, to be honest. Who's actually live right now? My brain is not working. Craft Jalapeno is playing Halo 3. It's nothing near close, but they're on the followers. They're on the list of people that I orbit. They're on the list of people I orbit, you know? So we'll raid them. So, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time. Make sure your shields are ready when we go back to the Byzantian Brewing Place. Sure, that
See you next week, everyone.
Yeah. Bye.